Good morning. Hello, hello. Welcome to Two Pastors and a Podcast. Reboot. Just kidding. Do.
Well, it's been an eternity.
It sure has.
And here we are, finally back. Two Pastors and a Podcast.
Woo!
Well, we'll give people a chance to... By now, everyone's probably forgot about us.
I almost forgot about us.
Yeah, me too. I told you Tuesday I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't have the energy. And then today I was like, well, eventually one of us is going to have to say, hey, are we doing this anymore?
We have to do the podcast.
We have to do this.
Or we have
keep
to
doing
say
it?
goodbye.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone would miss this necessarily, but I did hear that there have been a couple of podcast episodes that have been helpful for folks.
Good.
So
There are no questions that are just
it's okay.
sticking out to me today. Ugh.
One of the ways to get to know your pastor is to recognize that we all go through seasons. And sometimes getting to know them the best is to just know where they're at in a given moment.
This is true. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Do I need to move this?
No, I could hear you just fine.
All right. I feel like I'm out of practice.
Yeah. I'm kind of like looking at my iPad, trying to get my bearings. Hi. Good morning.
Ooh, I like that one.
We're not the only ones here today. Actually, we kind of are, but here we are.
That's okay.
Two Pastors and Podcast back. It's been a long summer that has not felt like a summer.
Summer. It felt like summer at the beginning, and now just the heat tells me that it's summer.
It's pretty brutal outside. It's heavy. Like you go outside, there's no sense of, ooh, I like being out here.
Your glasses fog up.
Yeah.
You're just like, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
Why am I out here?
Mm-hmm.
Ella convinced me to go outside and let them bike
Ooh.
yesterday. That was the shortest 30 minutes I think we've ever been outside.
Shortest, but also maybe longest.
It was
30
awful.
Minutes? Yeah.
And I was like, it can't be that bad. And so I stayed in my sweatpants. That was a mistake.
Lily came to church last night in shorts and her sweater. And I was like, what are you doing? That's disgusting.
Which is funny because she always tells me that she's always hot.
I know. Listen, teenagers.
Like, it's their fashion senses.
Yeah, it's all about what you got to wear.
Odd.
In a given moment.
Odd.
I do love that girl. But she's odd.
Must come by it honest.
Yes. Gets it from her mom.
Fair enough.
Now, if you're into watching, let us know you're watching. I want to know we're not here by ourselves.
We are by
Someone's on here.
ourselves.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Doesn't tell me. Anyway,
Maybe it'll tell me. I'm going to look.
so we were talking about just before we started, and I don't think people realize this, like it was the right thing. A lot's happened since our last podcast. We have not podcasted since before summer break.
It's you. You're watching with us.
Oh, I know. There's two on here, though.
Oh, okay.
Now you're watching. Anyway, it doesn't
two.
matter.
1, 2.
Doesn't matter.
Go on.
This is all about us anyway. I'm pretty sure my daughter and Ada's podcast has more viewership than ours.
We're not going to talk about that.
It is
fine.
what it is. And I just want to say, to call themselves two tweens in a podcast,
What?
That's a blatant ripoff.
We should.
And we're going to have a
copyrighted.
conversation
Yeah.
about don't leech off of my success.
We got to copyright it.
Don't
next
leech
time.
off of my success. Kids. But anyway, we haven't podcasted since before summer break. I think the last first week of June maybe, or even before that.
Yep, I think that's right.
So we were talking about, and this is what stinks about being a pastor sometimes when your plans get blown up. You have a rhythm on intentionally, and I don't think most people realize why you have that rhythm. Mm-hmm. So we pushed back VBS because I'll be real blunt, our church didn't take it seriously, and shame on them for that. But we didn't have many kids signed up, and so it was like, listen, we're not going to do it. So we pushed it back. That sounded good in theory. It was the right move this year, as we went from having 12 kids to 33.
Yep.
come through the doors, which is an awesome blessing. It was in the end of June, and we did it combined with our 4th of July cookout. It was a great celebration Sunday that way. It was overall, like, everything worked out beautifully this year. I think if I could go back, I wouldn't change it, even with what I'm about to say. I wouldn't change it. It was the right thing. God was in control of redeeming that failure on our end. So God redeemed that time. But it was, what I pumped in more than you only because I had to still prepare for Sundays. But overall, look, it was nothing short of 50 hours a week for you.
It was a very long couple weeks.
I think in those 2 weeks I hit 70 each week.
I had a really smart pastor once tell me not to count the hours on super busy weeks. So I didn't count the hours.
I counted the hours because I was exhausted.
It was
insane.
It was pretty
It was
bad.
our best like decorations, that we've had to date for VBS. And I care deeply about aesthetics.
And it was really as much as it was hard, it was really fun. I enjoyed being here and decorating and watching Lord of the Rings.
I know we did do that. We had Lord of the Rings on the TVs while we were working in here. But what most people don't realize is we like to have VBS at the beginning of the summer because it takes heavy work at the end of the school year, but then we're free to just be creative and enjoy the summer as a church and individually after VBS is over. You throw VBS in the middle of summer and it doesn't feel like you have summer.
Yeah, I don't know how some churches do it, like at the very end of summer. I'm in a VBS group on Facebook, and there's people who are like, our VBS isn't starting in a couple weeks. And I'm just like, y'all, what have you been doing all summer?
Yeah, my family up in the UP, I think they have theirs coming up in August. And of course, their school doesn't start until September.
Right. That's not fair.
That's also not fair.
Ugh.
Indiana needs to think about that. Get your act together. Get rid of fall break. What are you even talking about, fall break? We've been in school for a week. And you're going to give me a week off, and then we got... I digress. Anyway, they're starting theirs. I'm like, ooh, all summer long, all you're talking about is preparing.
I don't like that.
I don't really like that too much. But anyway, it hasn't felt like much of a summer.
No, not really.
Just now feeling like I'm getting into the swing of things, and it's like, oh, week and a half, Carrie goes back to work.
What?
I know. I'm not complaining. It's just, so to catch everyone up, we've had a great summer at the church. VBS was really great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Decorated really well. 4th of July cookout was really great. Mm-hmm. It's been a good summer overall. It's been a pretty decent summer. It's been hot in this building and miserable, but it's not been horrible.
Not as miserable as outside, though.
We just have fans running 24 hours a day.
That's fine. No big deal.
That's what it is.
How many? We got
That's what it is.
Four fans now. 5?
Yeah.
4 or 5?
Sue, I had breakfast with Sue Tuesday. I was supposed to get her giant oscillating fan. She's like, it will move a lot more air. And I'm like, let's push some air around.
Let's do it.
So anyway, it feels good in here right now.
It does. With nobody here.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's enough kind of catching up from the summer. Next week, I think Tuesday will be our only podcast day because we're heading to the old Great Wolf Lodge.
That's right.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to see Aunt Lori. Kids are excited about that.
How are you feeling about that?
Hey, listen, it's like a cesspool of disease and kids' illnesses. So I fully expect the kids to get sick, which is stupid. I mean, I don't want to go down a water slide. That's a lot of urine in there probably. These are the things I think about. It's gross.
But the girls are going to have so much fun.
Good for them.
Yep.
It's all about Aunt Lori, though. So excited they get to see Aunt Lori.
We went last year. Yeah. It was in May of last year. And we came back and Ella was sick like the next day or something. That was not a good week. Fun. I told you stop drinking the water.
But hey, maybe you'll get us ahead of the curve this year. And in November, December, January, February,
No.
I won't have 35 days of sick
No.
in my house.
Nope. Still gonna happen.
All right, so that's enough. It's get to know you time. Get to know your pastor time.
Woo. All right. Easy, fun one. I hope. What's your dream car?
57 Chevy Bel Air.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta look it up.
It's the old red. It's got to be red
57 Chevy
with the wings.
Bel Air. But no. Bel Air.
Yep, that's it.
Ooh, that one's fancy. Oh yeah.
Yep, that was
like
it.
that one.
We used to go. My grandma and grandpa would take me up to the farm every year, and every year I was with them. We would stop at this diner. I think in the Sioux. At the time, it's not there anymore. The Sioux's not quite what it used to be, but there's like a 50s style diner there. My grandma and grandpa, we would go to eat there occasionally. But every time grandma saw a 57 Chevy Bel Air, she would talk about that being her favorite car. And now I don't know. I maybe it wasn't. I could have just heard that as a kid and latched. It doesn't matter to me. Don't ruin my mind. The family members, they'll be like, actually, that wasn't, keep it to yourself. My reality is my reality. But anyway.
Let me stay blissfully ignorant. It's fine.
Yeah, so we would look at classic cars, and that was one of those ones my grandma would say she loved that car. And that just, I love my grandma, and that burned in my mind.
Yeah.
So 57 Chevy Bel Air. There's one in town that I see at the car shows.
Yeah.
If you know who that person is, maybe you can convince them to, when they're done, sell that car to me. Because I would legitimately park that thing in my driveway. I would drive it to work in the summer times. It would be fantastic. But that's it. 57 Chevy Bel Air.
I like looking at those old cars because you look in and you're like, we've come a really long way when it comes to safety features.
I know, there were tanks back then. They were just steel tanks. Steel tanks.
With no seatbelts.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Then the government got involved. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so 57, it's got to be red, though.
Yeah.
I don't want that turquoise that I see. It's just not the same. Want that bright red. That's my car.
That's a good color.
Yeah. Okay, what about you? What's your dream car?
Mine's a 69 Ford Mustang.
That's all. It's only one of the most expensive cars.
I know. Now ask Keith what his dream car is. His is more expensive.
Why the 69 Mustang?
I just like the way it looks, really.
That's just most of the world.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. I don't know anything about the insides. It could be a stick, and I would never be able to drive it, but it's fine.
That's a sweet car, though. When I bought my truck, I started seeing used muscle cars that were cheaper than my truck, and I was like, I think I bought the wrong car.
I think you did. You definitely should have got a muscle car.
I mean, listen, for about a month, people's heads would turn when my truck would go by because it's a brand new truck. It's like, ooh, that's a nice truck. I felt very good watching them,
That's right.
No one's ever looked at me like that before, so I thought, ooh, this is what it's like. It'd be eye candy. This is what it's like. This feels kind of good. They don't do that anymore. Like, it's just another truck. But, man, you see someone drive around a muscle car or a classic car, and everyone's like...
Always.
Every time.
Yep.
Anyway, so 69 Mustang. I don't
really have a color that as long as it's not like orange or yellow.
Ugh. What's a true 69 Mustang color? Gray, black?
No, probably one of those darker colors.
Well, if you're watching, or if you do watch this later, what's your dream car? You've heard mine, 57 Chevy Bel Air. You've heard Pastor Caitlin's, a 69 Mustang.
Mustang Sally.
Oh, that's a good-looking car, though. Black is it. I think it has to be black.
I like the really dark.
I think
black
has
or
to
like
be
the. Keith really likes that midnight purple that's like almost black, but it
has
the
a shade.
sun,
Yeah,
it has like a purple shade.
Yeah. That's a modern color, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that on trucks where it's just like, is it maroon? Is it black?
What color is it? It's a horse of a different color.
Yes.
Ha 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 ho ho ho.
Well, I do love cars though. I think it runs in the blood. I wasn't able to get it when I wanted to get it because everything was just kind of insanely busy, but I am going to get my motorcycle endorsement very soon.
Cool.
And then I'm going to ride a motorcycle to work.
Please wear a helmet.
Oh, yeah. I'm not macho. I don't try to impress people.
I'll let you borrow
I'd like to
Asher's,
live instead of being like, I went out riding free. No, I want to live. So,
I'll let you
I'll
wear
wear them.
Asher's Spider-Man knee pads and elbow pads. I'll let you borrow them.
That would look really funny. So, by the way, Keith says, don't worry. He would drive the car for you if it were a stick.
I don't need to learn to drive a stick. I can sit and watch all the people stare at me and my pretty car as I go by.
Hey, listen. What's it like to be eye candy? That's what it's like. It's like, hey, this is what it is.
We'll never know for real. Just our cars.
I've never turned a head before, but.
Oh, man. I'm sure you turned Carrie's head at least once. That's how you got married. No.
Married people don't count.
I was talking to your daughter on Sunday about lingo.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the word mid.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what does that mean, mid? She goes, it means not like really ugly, but also not like really beautiful. I go, oh, so like the majority of people.
So just the average human
just
being?
the average person. She goes, yeah.
Yeah, you're mid.
We're all mid. I go, okay, cool.
Yeah. At least this generation has a mid. Because, the previous, probably early 2000s, it was hot or not.
Oh, and
there was only extremes.
And there was nothing like the number scale.
No.
She's a 4. It's like, oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So at least there's like average. Yeah, you're a mid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like...
It's still like
It still doesn't feel good.
A slight.
Yeah.
But whatever. At least I learned something new.
Our church is mid.
There's a lot of things that are mid.
Our church is mid. It's not the blown up church where everyone just goes to remain anonymous, but it's also not the small church, like 99% of them that should close their doors. We're very in the middle.
We're mid.
We're mid.
Yay, go us.
We're going to rename ourselves Mid Church of the Nazarene.
No.
The Mid.
No, we're not doing that.
The Mid. That's what I'll call the youth group.
The Mid.
The Mid.
I did want to know, how was your trip with all the
the teens?
With all the teens. How did that go?
Yeah, we went to Lafayette and ate at Chick-fil-A, which was not fun because I didn't want to go to Chick-fil-A, and not everyone wanted to go to Chick-fil-A. But every kid acts like my kids these days. Where it's like, I don't want Raising Cane's. I don't like it.
Oh. Isn't Raising Cane's like right next to Chick-fil-A?
It is, but it's across the street.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not like that. Let's eat here, and then we'll go here, and then
Yeah.
we'll go here, and then we'll go here.
But
anyway,
one place.
I'm not bitter about it.
Just a little.
It was fine.
It was mid.
We had a good time at the old Chick-fil-A, especially watching Colton try to figure out how to work their trash bins.
Oh, do they have special trash bins?
Yeah, they're like the wave your hand and it opens up, and you got to get it all in there, and then it closes again. It's also weird watching him. It's like, I think Missy has thrown his trash away his whole life because he walked around with this tray. Like, what am I supposed to do
Where
with
do
this?
I go?
And then watching all the kids kind of do that, it was really funny. So anyway, we had that, and then we went to the old Sam's Club and walked around letting them kind of dictate, the Snack Shack stuff we were going to purchase to restock for the school year. And it was actually kind of cool because they actually had to, we would look at things, but, let's get that. And I'd say, okay, how much are you going to sell that for? And And they were like, huh? And then they look at, oh, that would be like $1.50. No way, And then Jordan got hung up on Gushers, so we had to get a box of Gushers. And then for some reason, I don't think it's going to work, but for some reason the kids thought goldfish packs, they were going to love those. So we got goldfish.
Are they kindergartners? Apparently.
Hey, I will smash goldfish.
I like goldfish.
I love goldfish.
I just thought that
but it was funny to watch them.
For middle schoolers.
Yeah, it's funny to watch them though. It was like, here's what we would like. It's like you'll like that for a day.
Yeah.
You'll buy one pack of that and then leave it. But
I didn't think that they still sold Gushers.
yeah, they do. Well, anyway, it was a great time. It was our first. Our legitimate first, random spur of the moment. We decided on Sunday we were going to go on Monday.
Yeah.
For the kids that were here. Mm-hmm. So every kid that was in youth group came and joined. It was our first ever, random youth outing.
Nice.
And then my van only stalled just one time.
That's a
Once
win.
we got back in town.
That's a win.
We're pulling out of Colton's house and put it in drive, started driving, and the power just went out. It just shut down. I was like, what in the world? Well, here's what happened. I think, because Carrie's not had any problems since. I got really annoyed with the headrest in the passenger seat of the van because it had busted. So it was hanging down all the time. It was really uncomfortable. And I was really frustrated with it. And I was like, I'm ripping this thing out. And when I grew up, a headrest was, you could pull it out at any point.
Yeah.
And then, had window smashers on it. I didn't know. I ripped that thing out. I ripped it out hard. I should have watched a video first, but I made some assumptions. There's a little pinhole. You could push a button over here, push a button over here, and it would come right out. I had Lily hold the button down, and I just yanked it out as hard as I could. Well, it comes out, and there's a wire.
Oh, no.
Well, it turns out that is an airbag assist wire.
Oh.
Why that's in the headrest, I don't know. Maybe it's because if your head's not up high enough, maybe it won't turn the headrest or the airbag on.
Does the airbag come out from behind? That seems
well,
dangerous.
it's side, but it's also front.
Oh, okay.
And white kids, they say don't sit in the front seat,
Right.
but beyond a certain height is because, the old decapitado.
Right.
And so maybe it's up in the headrest as a safety to say, ooh, wait. There's a seat. There's a butt in the seat, but it's not high enough, and so maybe that would turn off the airbag assist. Well, anyway, I think I shorted the van out. So now I got to buy an extraordinarily expensive headrest
Lovely.
because I He-Manned it.
Instead of looking,
I'm
on
very
YouTube.
disappointed in myself for that. I
That's
did learn
hilarious.
how to take the back of the seat apart. And then I took out the now exposed wires. It was a yellow clip. Well, I ripped them out of the yellow. Anyway, long story short, they don't build them like they used to.
You had fun, but your car did not have fun, it sounds like.
Nope, we made it back home alive, though. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
We need a church van.
Oh, that would be fun.
I know, we do need
Insurance, though.
that. I don't care.
Costs more.
We also need handicap parking.
Yep.
So we're in the midst of doing that. We also need a new HVAC system. We're in the midst of doing that. We also need to finish the other side of the building. We're in the midst of doing that.
Mid.
Everyone loves a small church. I was saying this week. Everyone loves a small church, or they say they do.
Yeah.
I think we kind of rose tint it a little bit. But we all grew up in a big church mentality, which is like, I never have to think about anything. Money grows on trees and we hire people to do everything. But people are yearning for something more intimate. And so we love a small church. I mean, they don't realize that small church only exists if you got to pay for it.
Right.
You can't just leech. It will cost you, to maintain a smaller church. It's just heavier on you as an individual,
Yep.
financially and time-wise and all that stuff. So you got to take that part seriously. So we have all these needs, and it's like, okay, small church, we got to stop acting like it doesn't depend on me.
Yeah.
We all got to come together and make this stuff happen, which means we got to pony up in our time and our energy and our thoughtfulness and our tithing. We got to step up into that. So Yeah.
or else it will fall apart.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought today I would read a little devotional to start.
Okay.
This is my 365 days of prayer for depression and anxiety. It's been one of my go-tos for a long time. Especially this winter, I needed it a lot. But I thought maybe we'll start with like a little red prayer today. It says, never without hope. Psalm 91, 14-15, those who love me, I will deliver. I protect those who know my name. When they call to me, I will answer them. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue them and honor them. And the prayer goes like this. God, you are an ever-present help in times of trouble. You are the rescuer of the desperate, the defender of the weak, and a safe place for the wandering. You have never met a problem that you could not conquer, and there is no situation that is too much for you to handle. While I am struggling to have hope, please rush in and do what only you can do. You are my deliverer and my protector. You will rescue me. I may not be able to see how you will do it, but you will. You never fail. Rescuer, I am desperate for your help. Where I cannot fix my life, where I see no way out, I need you to come through for me. Fill me with your love and grace as I wait on you.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. It's always good to have daily reminders that you're not on your own in there. And you got to say it out loud.
Yeah.
One of the conversations I've been having lately is we are too much silent in our own head. And whenever I read this prayer book, I always read it out loud. Mm-hmm. But even when it comes to our own prayers, asking God in our heart, or asking God to help us out, or asking God to deliver us from sin or habits or whatever, and even in praying for each other, we spend a lot of time in our own heads.
Yeah.
I mean, even when people come to the altar, it's very often silent, unless it's you're hearing the tears or kind of the crying. That's not every week, but when that happens, most of the time we're silent. We're just always in our head. And I've been trying to teach people that you got to find your voice.
Yeah.
Engaging your whole body in prayer is really important because saying it sometimes is all the time important because you need to hear it. Mm-hmm. Your brain needs to hear it through your ears. And we've kind of relied on other people to pray for so long that we've lost our voice a little bit. So when we find ourselves struggling or needing God's help for freedom or salvation, it's so important to find your voice right now.
I agree. I like praying in my car out loud, which is still like kind of silent because there's nobody around to hear it, but I need to hear it.
I think that's the key. It is about what you're hearing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when in the Gospels or in Jesus' day, it wasn't what you thought that came into existence. It's what you said. And when you spoke it, so if you blessed someone, it wasn't like I'm thinking, dear God, bless Pastor Caitlin today. But I'm saying that just in my head.
Right.
And then that came into existence. No, it's like, dear God, rain your blessings down on Caitlin today. That speaks that blessing into existence, spoke it into existence back then. And likewise with a curse, like, God rain down hellfire on Pastor Caitlin today. It's
no,
like,
please don't.
don't do that. Like that kind of spoke it into existence. Of course, that's why a lot of scripture is about watching your mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Only let what it comes out of your mouth be useful for upbuilding the community and uplifting the people around you. It's kind of that biblical mandate. But it's all about speaking. And so, speak more. Pray out loud more.
I also like that, especially for the depressed or anxious person, we need to hear, like, our own brains are telling us lies all the time anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So it's good to, like, speak truth out loud so that you can hear it.
Yeah.
For sure.
When we think of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? The psychology world is just coming to grips with this mentality. over the past 20, 30 years of your brain creates highways.
Mm-hmm.
And over time with your words and your habits, what you say, and then when things happen, your brain naturally gets on the entry ramp to that highway and just takes that highway. And so, for instance, if your mind is always filled with negative thoughts of like thinking the worst about people, let's say, and something happens, and you've built this pattern in your whole life of just assuming the worst about that person or what they think about you or whatever, as soon as something happens with that person or with anybody, your car gets on that highway and it's instantly following those same patterns and same routes. So when you think of cognitive behavioral therapy, it's this rewiring of your brain. And when I've talked to people recently about whether it's negative thinking or whether it's kind of some of our apprehension when it comes to asking God's help or asking God into our life or helping free us. There's a lot where we get on these highways of anxiety or doubt or fear or thinking the worst or whatever it might be. And we don't realize we've built that our brains built that interstate over a long period of time. So how do you fix that? Well, good news. That can be fixed, right? Like, just like your brain's really wonderful. God created a very powerful thing, obviously. It's why we're here. That isn't stuck forever.
Yeah.
So it's like it can build new roads, just like, we can out on the street. So how do you help your brain build new roads? Well, silence is not it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you say out loud in your thinking, but also out loud, and you hear it when we talk to each other. I can hear the highways that are mapped out in your brain just by what you say to me in a given situation. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. So this is what's going on in your head right now. This is the road most commonly traveled. So one of the most important ways to remap your brain and build new highways is to stop saying what you say and have said for so long and speak the opposite or the right thing into existence in that moment. And you got to say it again and again and again and again. So if I'm like constantly looking down on myself because I'm just a screw up, so this is part of my brain feature, right? So if I say the wrong thing or if it comes off the cuff, like my constant out loud and internal is, you idiot, why did you say it like that? You just made everything worse. This is all anyone's going to hear. Yeah. And then that shifts like everything for the week, how I think about myself or the confidence to talk to somebody or whatever it might be. So the only way I reroute that is to stop it and then say, stop. And I'll say it out loud. Stop. I've had to do that a few times. I say to you often, I wrestle with ghosts. Yeah. So I have arguments with people now that stem from arguments with people in the past. And my brain has created a highway that this is what's always going to happen. Yeah. So I just have arguments with ghosts all the time. So I have to say out loud, stop. Once I say that out loud, then I have to say something else. Yeah. Okay. You have to stop this. I said this recently. You have to stop doing this. This is not what's happening right here. And I have to speak something else into existence. Yeah. So to your point, whether it's depression and anxiety, or it's pride, or it's self-confidence, or, living in fear or whatever it might be, God can't rebuild highways in your brain if you aren't also a part of that process of recognizing this is not God's highway. I need to say something different and get my brain over time to build a different highway so that I think differently about myself or about situations in life.
Yeah. The whole fake it till you make it, but you got to make sure that you're adding truth to the fake it part.
Was it John Wesley that kind of said, I think it was. Don't quote me on it, but sometimes in faith even, you got to keep saying things even in the midst of doubt.
Yeah.
Until you come to really believe it. You got to keep, again, your brain's wired to doubt. You have highways of doubt based on life experience or whatever. So you got to keep saying things even when it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
So that it builds that highway of faith, and that's always your thing.
That's kind of, my mom used to, so I was in high school and something pretty traumatic at the time for me happened, and I was like, how do I forgive this person? I know I'm supposed to. I don't have to keep like living in it, but how do I forgive this person? And that's what my mom said. She said, you just keep saying it until you believe it. You just keep, I think the whole 70 and 7 times of forgiveness or whatever it was coming into play. But it's kind of like how you just got to keep saying it.
So how do you, so if you're talking to someone as a pastor and you're giving them that advice and they say, well, what do you mean just keep saying it?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would turn it into a prayer. I would say, Lord, help me forgive this person. I don't think that me saying over and over again, I forgive them, I forgive them, I forgive them on my own strength is going to do anything.
For sure.
So turning that into a prayer is probably the first step.
A silent prayer or a spoken prayer?
Oh, no. It's got to be out loud.
Yeah. Why is it out loud for you? It ties in with everything.
Well, because I don't believe my brain. I think that my brain is right now wired to be sad or mad at itself or whatever it is at the time. So especially if you've been like really, really hurt, you have to be able to speak the truth. Even if, whatever's inside is lying to you.
I think that's really good. You have to speak the truth. If we never use our mouths, which is a created component God has given us to praise Him or to connect with Him and each other, if we don't use our mouth, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I just have come to really believe that. Like, we have to find our voice again. I have to find that comfort. I wonder, like, why? Why is it so hard for us to pray or pray out loud? Why is it hard for us to give verbal testimony? Why is it hard for us to stop the highway and say, stop it, I need to say that? Like, what's making us mute, in your opinion? Because it feels like we're all a bit mute, and maybe we don't know the power of our voice. But what's your thought?
Probably fear.
Oh, fear keeps us silent?
Yeah.
Okay, how so?
Well, like when you think about testimony, you're usually thinking about the big giant testimonies that people give, and you're like, I couldn't possibly compare to that. So a little bit of comparison, a little bit of fear.
That's a big highway, right?
Yeah.
We've made highways in our brain about my testimony's not that significant, which is such a pride move, by the way. But
and it's also wrong.
Right. So I have to face that, or I've grown up kind of that way.
I think that whether we realize it or not, a lot of us grew up with not being allowed to speak our questions or our doubts or our concerns.
Oh, so maybe there's a part of our nurturing in the church even where keep it to yourself.
Yeah. So that goes into fear too. Like you don't want to feel stupid. You don't want to feel like I should be beyond this by now, but I'm not. So there's a bit of that too. And
that's a pride issue too.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like pride, because pride sounds like arrogance.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Pride is everything that I use to set myself apart and not rely on. Yeah. Okay, so fear,
pride,
or just kind of maybe being nurtured to not say too much or comparison.
We're all also very individualistic and private people. So
so individualism and private life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of turned the gospel being deeply personal into deeply private. And that's such a heresy. If I were to term something heresy, I would say the privatization of faith is the most damaging thing in the church that's ever happened to the church. I mean, I'm meaning even like crusades. Like the most damaging thing is the privatization of faith. I do me and God, you do you and God. It's all about me. It's all about you. And, you know, it ties into self-actualization and all of those good things that are affecting us today.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's mostly it.
Privacy.
Probably.
Privacy is that is definitely one of those things that it's interesting. It's not even like if you're praying out loud in church, you're not going to be sharing your dirty laundry out loud. But we become so private that we're look it's like private means my prayers are just in me and then the church becomes mute.
Yeah.
Now I'm not talking about the difference between a stoic and a charismatic church, because I have deep problems with charismatic churches. But you get to prayer time and it's just listen to the pastor pray. And we built that, like that's a boomer thing that's been handed down from boomers over the years and Gen X and millennials and whatever. It's just trickled down from there. But just listen. Just listen. And then the church is just like, you don't realize that you find a lot of strength when people are praying out loud. I remember going to men's breakfast as a kid, and men have lost their voice, their spiritual voice. Or the guys would gather around the altar at the church before they would go to breakfast together, and the guys would just start praying. And the guys would pray, not one at a time so I could sit and listen, but they would pray together.
Yeah.
And it was such a beautiful moment to hear the chorus of God's people praying out loud together at the same time. It's a bit jarring if you're not used to it, but it was right. It was good. You get to Sunday nights and we'd have testimony time, and it wasn't like a 5-minute story time about, it was testimonies are about what God has done, how God has saved me, giving God the credit for that, and hearing some of the men and women of the church just get up and be able to articulate that so clearly. No fear. This is what we do. We voice these things. And the church was, and it always has its own problems, but it was a different kind of church back then. Now it's very stoic, very quiet. How do we as church people expect to turn the tide, to shift as in church culture away from always listening to talking heads and the shift from these terrible, negative, fearful, whatever highways that we built collectively in our mind as a church? How do you do this like turn? And I think part of it is like get over your pride, get over your fear, and speak those things out. And I do think that until we start using our mouth, not in a private way, as a personal expression, not being afraid, whatever it might be, but just say these things out loud. That makes the biggest difference in a church.
There is a lot of strength and vulnerability that we've kind of lost, because in your vulnerability, you point to the one who's not vulnerable, and you give glory to the one who's helping you through these, moments of despair or trials or whatever is going on in your life. And
think about that. Think about like Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
Or even during the trials that he was a part of in the Passion narrative. Even all the way back to the Garden of Gethsemane. Like, it wasn't like, let's use Jesus's words in John from the cross, which is disputed whether it was in the original text or not. That doesn't matter for right now. But Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. That wasn't recorded because they just kind of thought, I bet in his mind, that was Jesus's prayer that day. In the midst of his suffering, he spoke those things out loud. In the midst of his doubt, maybe in the midst of his own wrestling with God's will for how this redemption was going to happen, he prayed those prayers out loud.
Yeah.
That's a model for us. Again, how does Jesus not despair on the cross?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't just dwell in his own head and just be like, okay, don't despair, don't despair, don't despair. And everyone's like, man, what's he thinking up there? Like, it was what came out of his mouth consistently and constantly, I think, that made the biggest difference in his life and death. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Seems like you were hinting at that.
I think that also shows a great vulnerability. And I think it shows us that whatever fear or pride that we have, if we look at the example of Jesus, it is more worshipful to let go of that and allow God to work through with you whatever you're going through, and then you know that you're not alone. Like, other people are going through the same things that we're going through, and so it builds the community more too. And I think that this expectations of, or the concern of what other people are thinking of us has become the stumbling block that we are just tripping over again and again and again. And I think that is really dampening the testimony of what we could do with God's help, because I think about the things that, we talk about on here or whatever, and we don't know if it's going to help anybody, but we try to be vulnerable. We try to be honest with, where we're at, if we're tired, if we're anxious, if we're, having an emotional week or whatever. And everybody is going through something. So if you allow your words to be used by God, he helps more than just you.
Yeah. And it kind of brings to light a new thought there in why maybe it's so important to pray out loud, or testimony out loud, or speak out loud, or praise out loud. It's the voice of my neighbor that also helps rewrite the highways or repave the highways in my own brain. So if we are collectively as a church not praying out loud together, or just waiting for Pastor Josh to pray, or the few people that we think know how to pray, we're actually keeping the body of believers around us from rewriting all of our highways to be able to be more in line with Him and the healing that He brings through the community. Unexpected conversation today, but it is what I have been working through with several people as a pastor, and that is, like, you got to say some things out loud.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good word for everyone today, is in your prayer time, do not sit there in silence. If you don't speak it out loud, you will just be relying on whatever goes through your mind at a moment. I hear all the time, I lose focus. Well, duh, yeah, you're just sitting there. talk a little bit,
Yeah.
and you won't lose focus as much.
Yeah.
So, I want to challenge anyone that listens to this, find your voice.
Yeah.
When you pray out loud. Oh, God says pray in secret. Come on now. He still didn't say pray silently, He said instead pray this way. And then he said things out loud. When we think of what we're going through in life, when we're suffering or in depression or having anxiety, it's what you say out loud that helps you come out of those kinds of things. You're hearing it, if you have a testimony in your heart, say that out loud. Don't just, say it out loud. God gave you a voice for a good reason. And again, kind of to your point earlier, you can help rewrite the pathways in other people's minds because of what they're hearing from you, not just hoping. I bet Caitlin really has it all together in her mind right now. It's like, so I want to challenge my own church to, stop being silent.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with sin behavior and sin patterns, accountability is always about speaking it out.
Yeah.
I've seen it over and over again, the patterns of sin rear its ugly head over and over again, simply because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're not rerouting your mind. You're not letting God reroute your brain by just owning it. And remember, Scripture talks about if we confess our sins, that's not just, that's saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Because the moment that I speak it out, it's very real.
Yeah.
So I just want, my church, I want, good for you, good for me today, to remember that when we speak it out, it becomes real.
Yeah.
So whatever my prayer or my needs are or my testimony is today, I want to make sure that I speak that into existence, believing and trust that God's going to use that to correct my own errant ways of thinking or the pride or the fear or the comparisons or whatever it might be, the private side of me. I'm going to trust that God's going to use those words to actually make those things real in my life. So get out of your own head today. Share your testimony out loud. Maybe start with your kids or your spouse or your best friend. Learn, practice. You got to do this, right? Yeah. Take an opportunity. When we pray on a Sunday morning, don't listen to me. Even whisper your own prayer. Just start to get used to getting that out in church or in women's breakfast or men's breakfast or whatever it might be.
There was a wonderful pastor who was retired when we went to AFC, and he passed away from Alzheimer's. But even in the midst of, all the mental stuff that he was going through, every time people are at the altar, he would go up and he would just pray Jesus over them over and over. Just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Yeah.
And I feel like even if all you're saying is Jesus, you're speaking it and you're starting somewhere.
Yeah. Speak that into existence.
Yeah.
And trust it will change you.
Yeah.
And believe that it could change someone else too. So, yeah. There you go.
That was a good one.
So what, if we can end on this, and you can ask it back to me too.
Okay.
What do you need to say out loud for yourself today?
I am not a waste of space.
Okay. I am not a waste of space.
What about you?
I am not a failure.
There you go.
Those are probably good things. There you go. Now you know what's in your pastor's heads. The highways we have, right? The highways we have. That's in your mind because there's a highway there.
Yep.
That's been built up over time. And in saying, I am not that, God can start to rewrite the highway in your own mind when you do feel like you're just a waste of space. And for me, I have built by my own doing and by the hands of others this kind of highway of I'm not a good pastor. I'm a failure. I've let far too many people down, way more than I've helped. And that's a bad highway. So I'm not a failure is God's way of helping me create a new highway.
Yeah.
So you're not a waste of space, Caitlin.
Thank you. You're not a failure.
Hey, there we have it. Guys, pray out loud. Say it out loud. Talk to your pastors. Talk to your friends. Find your voice. All right.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
We love you. Have a good, what is today? Thursday. Have a good Thursday. Almost said Tuesday. I don't even